So a couple of days ago, I was asked for advice on this. I don't feel like a failure. I mean, I never tell myself that I am. I just fear, what if I am a failure in the future? I guess that kind of gives me some drive to do stuff like working on projects and working out, but it feels almost destructive to my psyche. So this is something that you typically develop when you compare yourself to other people frequently, and your self-worth is determined by how much better you are than others, right? So, uh, you can tell yourself that you don't feel like a failure right now, but then using fear to drive your ambition forward is obviously going to destroy your mental health, right? Because let's say let's say it does hit a point where you put as much hard work as you possibly could and you don't get the outcome that you wanted, right? Then you're kind of confirming that belief that you're a failure in that moment, or you confirm the belief that you were going to be a failure in that moment from the past. And so when that happens, then you're like, dang, I'm a failure. And then that thought kind of just spirals in your head, and you're gonna go down a hole where you're constantly suffering and constantly in a cycle of, I have to work harder because I don't want to be a failure. And then you're like, when you hit a point where you've accomplished something, it doesn't feel fulfilling because you're still telling yourself this is not enough for me to be sure that I'm not a failure later in life. And so at that point, you may hit 30, 40, 50. I don't know how old you are, but you may hit a point where you may have steady income, wife, kids, car, nice house, and still not enough for you because you still feel like you're going to fail in the future. And so that kind of comes to a second point where you also have to be thankful for your skills and thankful for what you have, right? So oftentimes you may make a great achievement or, you know, get congratulated by a ton of people for doing something great, and it still feels like you haven't hit where you want to be to feel like you're not a failure anymore. And so something that helped me with this is like when I was maybe a junior in high school, senior in high school, I told myself like as soon as I got in a good college, I would no longer feel this way. I would no longer be afraid of failing. And then when I got there, I was like, wow, I made it. I'm doing great. Right? And then uh, I was still scared for some odd reason. I was still scared of failing. And when I got like my second exams back, I was getting like C's on them, and all those thoughts just came right back. They're like, damn, you're not gonna be anything in life. And so I think when I hit that milestone, I thought there was still more to accomplish to appreciate myself. And then I kind of realized, how normal it is to fail exams starting out and how normal it is to struggle with that transition, especially with the classes I was taking that were uh, usually taken by second years or second semester freshmen. And so I was in a really bad spot then because I believed that maybe I don't belong at the school. I believe maybe someone in the admissions made a mistake and that I was not as good as everyone else that got into the school. And so I realized that I kind of put like I don't know if you guys are into coding at all, but I kind of put that into a virtual machine, or I guess I kind of tunnel visioned on that one failure, and I didn't take a broader perspective and kind of see the success that I was making during that semester. I didn't see the great friends that I had made. I wasn't seeing, the fact that I was going to the gym every day, getting good cardio in, uh, you know, like getting into clubs and stuff. And so a lot of times it's very easy to hyper focus on our flaws and hyper focus on when we have a setback and then tell ourselves like, I can't feel like this again. I gotta I gotta work harder or else I'm gonna be a failure. But then when you kind of broaden your perspective and you kind of see how blessed you are and how many great things you have in your life, you can kind of propel yourself forward because you want to rake in those opportunities and rake in more blessings rather than be afraid of losing them, right? So then after that, when you start working and doing things to build something rather than to maintain the state of not failing, oftentimes you'll find yourself, one, a lot happier, and two, actually, long term, you're going to accomplish more than you could have by telling yourself, I have to do this or else I'm a failure, right? Having that negative mindset, it sometimes can push you, and sometimes that fear kind of settles in and you do better, but it won't be as fulfilling because it feels like you're not building your life, you're more of running away from a fear. And once you break free from that fear, it's kind of just you versus you instead of you versus a failure or you versus you comparing yourself to other people. It's just you trying to become the best version of yourself. And telling yourself I'm a failure if I'm not the best is obviously not your best because your best version of you is you right now. And that's the thing. You right now has a choice every single second to just keep building, right? For example, you shouldn't really be in college to not fail. You should be in college because you want to get a degree doing something that you love and you want to use that degree to give back to your family, give back to your wife, your kids, whatever. And for example, you don't want to go to the gym because you fear being fat or being skinny. You should go to the gym because you want to achieve physical well-being. You want to be fit. You want to be attractive, things like that. You shouldn't be working to run away from a negativity. You should be working to achieve a positive, right? And so that's something that you can't really change overnight if you've grown up and been scared of being a failure, maybe from parental pressures or you have older siblings. That's not really something that you can just instantly just flush out of your mind. It takes you being aware of when those thoughts are coming and being self-aware enough to say, hold on, this is bad for my psyche, and this is bad to tell myself I'm going to think in different ways. And something that might help is journaling those thoughts down, and then maybe the next day or a couple of days later, you might go back and read it and be like, wait, this kind of makes no sense when I'm writing. And then you could also, if you don't like writing, you could also voice your voice your thoughts with someone, trusted family member, trusted friend, professional. I don't know, whatever floats your boat. That would help. That helped me a lot. Or you could also maybe read a book, listen to a podcast, something that specifically helps you transform that mind. So you want to look for things that touch on that topic specifically. Um, sorry, my allergies have been acting up a lot recently, but it's very easy to kind of feed into those thoughts because when you feed into those thoughts, it feels like that motivation, but that motivation often is toxic long term. And then in squashing that out and finding a different motivation to propel yourself forward, it's so much easier and so much more sustainable on your mind. And you can then be more present in what you're doing without looking too far in the future and being scared of a negative outcome. You can be confident that that positive outcome is going to come because you're being consistent, doing your best, and you're working hard. Okay. Thank you for being strong enough and brave enough to send that request in. That was a really fun topic, and hope that helped you. I hope to record probably Monday. I got finals on Monday, so after that, I'm hoping to record. I hope to see you guys then, and I'm glad you guys watched this.